Good evening. Happy Monday to everyone. Hope you're well. Can't believe Monday's come around yet again. So hope you've all had a good day and you're having a good half term if it's half term for you. I've got brilliant. Okay. So a couple of people have just joined. Hi Jackie. Hi Kat. Hi Sarah. Oh, we've got a few joining us tonight. Brilliant. So lovely to see you all. Oh, you can see me, I can't see you. But I hope you've had a good day. Today it was really nice. I had a homeschooling free day, so we're on half term. I actually got offline. It was so nice just to get away from a computer, get out of the house, and the sun was shining, so we got to go to the woods and just got completely covered in mud. It was brilliant. So it was so nice just to be offline and meeting free. So very, very grateful for that. So anyway, great to see you all. Thanks for joining. So I am very excited about tonight, as I am every Monday night. I do love these lives because I get to talk to some absolutely brilliant people. And tonight we have the lovely Jacqui Marson who's joining us. And Jacqui is the author of, excuse my post-it notes, the book The Curse of Lovely. And I read this book a few years ago, and I have to say during lockdown I've revisited this book. It's been a little kind of a little gem. So it was very helpful to me a few years ago, but particularly during lockdown as well. So this is all about how to break free from the demands of others and say no. So I'm really excited to be bringing Jacqui on this evening. She's a wonderful coach, and I've known her for many years, and she's had a really positive impact on my life, and I've learned so many strategies from her. And what I love about Jacqui, she's straight talking, has a great sense of humour, and and like I said, I've learned so much from her. So I'm really looking forward to you all meeting her. So here we go. Let's see if we can get this to work, and we'll get Jacqui on. Okay, and this hopefully works so far. She hopefully will be joining us very shortly. Here she comes.
Hello, Rebecca.
Jacqui, nice to see you.
Lovely to see you. That was a gorgeous introduction. I'm absolutely thrilled to be with you this evening. Thrilled and on.
Oh no, I'm so happy you agreed to come on, and just show you off to our audience. I know you've definitely shared lots of great tips and strategies over the years for me, so I'm so happy to have you here. So thank you for giving up your Monday evening to do this.
Pleasure, my pleasure.
So I thought we'd just dive straight in. I've got lots of questions for you.
Fantastic. All the merrier. Bring them on.
Bring them on, yeah. So, and if anyone has any questions, please do add them onto the chat, and we'll shout them out as we go along. So our kind of theme tonight is how to say no and to make time for ourselves. So a brilliant theme at the moment. And obviously, when this book was written, we didn't obviously plan a lockdown and all the things that have been going on for the year. So right. So can you tell us a little bit more about the book, if you haven't come across this before, and what's inspired you to write it, Jacqui?
To write it. Well, I love the title. I came up with this title, The Curse of Lovely, because in a way, everybody wishes, or many people wish they were called lovely. And oh, that lovely man, that lovely woman. And those who aren't called, think, oh, wouldn't that be nice? But for many of those people, maybe all of them, that adjective is used about, they can experience it in a really negative way, like it's a trap. It's something that they are trapped by the expectations of others, that they'll always be nice and kind and willing and do what's asked of them and supportive and bring good energy, all these things that you then maybe feel you have no choice about, and that people just endlessly pile on demands to you, and you find it very, very difficult to say no, because you don't want people, you don't want to disappoint them, you don't want them to not like you anymore. You're maybe afraid of anger, afraid of conflict. So it becomes something that can feel not a blessing, but a curse. And I love that idea, because people think like, oh, you know, why is that so bad? But people who get the title, who that is their challenge, they get it immediately. And it's a kind of joke in that paradox that, you know, it can feel like a wicked witch has put a curse on you at birth, because you're always going to smile, say yes, and be helpful and be willing. And that can be exhausting. It can take such a toll on your life, on your health, on your well-being, on your career, on your relationships. So my book, the idea was to, is this you? Let's talk about it in a kind of entertaining, informative, accessible way. And I use loads of my own stories, because this is my own challenge as well. And then ways that you can begin very gently, very compassionately, to begin to experiment with being different and changing your behaviors, so you no longer feel cursed, and so that you can feel that actually these things are fantastic social skills if you can be charming and make people like you, but as long as you are in control of when you do that and it doesn't control you.
Okay, no, I love that. And it's funny actually, you know, I think sort of 10, 15 years ago in my corporate career, that I was always told, oh, you're so nice, you're so lovely. And I always saw that as a negative. I thought, I've got to be more assertive, I've got to be this, I've got to be that. So I know actually kind of reading this book and meeting you has really helped me to manage that, because there's some positive things around being lovely, but it can feel quite negative as well.
Yeah, totally. In the end, in my kind of final chapter, chapter 11, it's like what we're aiming for is lovely, comma, with choice. Because those
Right,
those
yes.
things that, you know, deserve the adjective lovely, they're absolutely not bad at all. People who haven't got them would die for them. They would, you know, we could run coaching sessions in loveliness, but it's when you feel you have no choice. My other idea, title for the book was The Price of Nice. But I think someone else had written that book, or whatever. But the price of being nice, when it feels too high, that's when you have to do something about it.
Yes, yeah, yeah, absolutely. When it's got kind of a detriment on your health and your well-being, it's
Yeah,
about how do you manage that. So,
absolutely. Our permission to not always be nice, that you don't have to be nice all the time, but you can still be a valuable human being, likable, lovable, good at what you're doing.
yes, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm just kind of wondering how that's playing out at the moment. You know, if you are kind of going through that, and you know you've got so many, I don't know, you know,
Mm.
demands on you. I mean, I was speaking to someone recently, and they were saying, you know, they were isolating, they were managing three kids, they were homeschooling, and they were both working full time. I mean,
Oh,
how do you even navigate that? It's like
no,
I didn't even know what to say, because I couldn't even get my head around how stressful that situation is.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And I think you're right. It's you were so right saying in your introduction that I think my book, all these ideas have become really pertinent and needed in the time of COVID and of lockdown, because
mm,
so many people I've talked to, boundaries, which is, you know, I don't necessarily, I'm not a big fan of that word boundaries, but it is kind
no,
of like,
okay.
I prefer the kind of how to say no and how to say a gracious no, which we can talk about in a bit. But
Mm,
they've got their kids coming in, you know, mummy, 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 in the middle of a call. We've all seen that, and it can be amusing for a bit, but it's like you don't want them to not feel loved, to not feel you're being a good mum or a good parent. And then there's your office is demanding Zoom meetings at evening and 7 o'clock, and you're getting emails at all times of night a day. And it's like, how do you put those boundaries in? How do you make some time for yourself to get a little bit of resource to
mm,
fill up your own petrol tank, as I like to say, or your own oxygen mask, like in the plane, so that you can look after the needs of those who are really important to you, like in your household, your kids or your partner or parents, who,
mm,
and still manage to get those little bits of all important headspace, time to yourself, the stuff that resources you and refuels you. That's what people, I think, have been really, really struggling with. And is it all right to
mm,
say no to some of those work demands? Will I keep my job? Because there's such uncertainty around, isn't there? So kind of anxiety and guilt fuels then saying yes to too much and not being able to say no.
mm.
Oh God, you've hit the
Things on the
nail on the head. So I could go in so many different directions in my next question, but I think you're right. It's just there's just so much to manage, and I know sort of personally all the strategy that I've ever had for saying no, even since I read the book, it's almost like a lot of it's just sort of gone out the window because you know if Alfie comes in and he needs something printed off or he needs a drink, you know, whereas before I would have my techniques of the gracious no, how do it's all gone out the window because the mum instinct has kicked in and I just want to go and you know make him happy and it's just like oh but my other work oh I have to put that to one side and it's just suddenly you get all this conflict inside so it's just how do you do and even after a year I'm kind of thinking I should be actually good at managing this but like
Oh,
so I mean you talked about sort of boundaries and so is sort of anything you could kind of share on how you
yeah, of
navigate
course. Loads,
that?
too much really. I'll try
Yeah,
and
sure, yeah.
top tips. But after all our years of sort of working together, I'll just pull you up on that. You said should. You said I should be able to do this. Which do you remember? Oh no, I'm not telling you off. I'm not.
I still don't.
Time. And I think I've really slipped back in lockdown. I think, maybe we all have. Things are really a struggle. You go into sort of crisis management, you go back into all your old coping mechanisms. And if your coping mechanism was curse of lovely, kind of saying yes to get through and not feel guilty, that will be back there with a vengeance. So to then, a word like should, must, never, what I call these black and white words. Do you
Okay.
remember? Like the power of replacing should with could is such a weight off your shoulders. So you might say, I should, and it should always has a bossy tone to it. It's one of our it's our inner critic going, you should have be better at this by now. You should have learned. You did, blah, blah, blah. And off it goes. And it just
Yeah.
sort of makes our shoulders slump and us feel bad about ourselves. But if you replace it with could, so it's like, oh, I think I had this a bit cracked once. I could be able to do that again. I wonder what's stopping me. And it just immediately, doesn't it, lightens it. And you think you have a choice. Maybe today I feel a bit fragile. I'm not very strong. And I'm not going to be able to say to Alfie, sweetheart, can you just wait a minute? Mum is on a call. Or I'll come to you. I'll do the printing in 10 minutes. You just, that's not possible. But you could go at the end of that day when you're having your little secret, 5 minutes with your gin and tonic in the candlelit bath. Or your walk with the podcast, something which is for you, which restores you a little bit, gives you a little bit of space. And you might think, oh, I wonder if tomorrow I could put some boundaries in and say to Alfie when he rushes in, I can deal with that at lunchtime, or let's, go to daddy, or whatever the options might be, rather than that immediate sort of guilt tripping, he won't feel loved if I don't immediately see to his needs, which is sort of happens, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think, because this has been such a new situation, I suppose I kind of worried back sort of March, April, like what impact is this having on him? Are they going to be, is he going to be needing some kind of counselling or therapy, in 20 years' time for what, spending so much time with me at home. But it's just that kind of like what is the impact? Whereas I think this time round, I don't know, from January, it's like, well, you know what? So far, things have gone okay. We are sort of coping, managing. There doesn't seem to be too many scars. So it's almost like a daily thing I'm finding. It's like what can we rework? What can we do better? So I love thank you for reminding me about the should, could.
Yeah. And also that's really important. It's like you've gained a bit of trust from the first time round that really he has got resilience. He will be fine. He's a secure little boy. And that a few days of saying, can you wait a bit? Or I can't do that today. We'll do it tomorrow or whatever, like offering options is not the end of the world. He doesn't crumble. Then you now have, because you saw it the first time round, you can draw on that a trust in your relationship with him and who he is as a person. And also one of the things I would say is like often when we're frightened to say no to someone, whether that's our boss, our husband, our parent, our friend, our child, it's partly because we are mind reading and anticipating what that might mean to them, that they might be devastated that we're letting them down, that they will be upset, that they won't feel loved. Things that sort of are possibly some of our own projection, how we have felt when people have said no to us or let us down. But we never, ever know. We can't read other people's minds. So actually, not thinking of a child, thinking of like a friend, when someone has sometimes, cancelled on us, have you not often felt relieved and thought, oh, thank goodness for that. I didn't want to go out tonight. I can have a night in with the telly, with a glass of wine, with my feet up. And it's a relief. So sometimes, how do we know when we cancel someone or say no to our child? We don't know what that will mean. It could mean a whole range of things. And at that point, it might be helpful to choose that it will mean something neutral or even positive to them.
Interesting. Yeah. So again, it's not projecting our own
emotion, our own response. Yeah. They are set.
Yeah, I think you're always kind of concerned how that's going to come across, but like you say, actually, sometimes it could be relief, and they've had a really flat out week, and they might actually just appreciate that time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's.
They say about children, they are not any faults of their own. It's just how they're hardwired. They're attention junkies, really, and they will, not all of them, but often keep asking and keep trying, like they're kind of playing a slot machine until like, oh, put the 10p in, but then it'll play out bingo. Mummy's stopped what she's doing. She's gone and got me a chocolate spread sandwich or a book. But actually, the more you say no, but as long as it's in a kind of calm, sort of a calm, loving tone, which isn't always possible, but the tone often to a small child conveys far more, tone and your body language, far more than the word. So if it's a kind of like, oh, sorry, not now, darling, you might want to put a kind of, nice word in there. Mum is busy. I will come back in when the big hand's on the 12 or whatever their age is appropriate. You'll train them that they can do that, and it's fine, they can survive, and that's a good lesson for both of you. But often you'll be amazed how they trot off, and it's, it is fine. But something like, should we tell people about the gracious no? Because you said
I was going to say, yeah, go for it. Yeah, this is a sort of a chapter in the book that I found so useful. And actually, looking back, I think over the last sort of couple of years, I think I kind of now integrate it into the everyday. But I said since lockdown, I think that's just gone out the window. So I'd love to have and for anyone listening in. So yeah, what is the gracious no? How does it work?
Trying to think of, do I have to update it slightly for lockdown? But you and I can talk about that. In its original form, it is that if you have anything like a shade of the curse of lovely, it will be difficult for you to say no, because your habit is to say yes. And your habit is to say yes immediately. Would you do this? Would you do this extra piece of work? Zoom call tonight? Get your kid a chocolate sandwich? Yes, of course. Smile. Yes, happily. So the very first thing I say is, we can't suddenly go on an assertive course and be super assertive and go, no, I'm sorry, no. The first thing I think the graciousness is really helpful to lovelies as they're practicing something different, is to thank the person for their request in some form, like maybe not a 5-year-old, thank you for asking, but something that feels comfortable with you. And this is the really important bit, make yourself a gap. Don't answer immediately. Because if you answer immediately, it's going to be a yes. And then you're left counting the cost of that afterwards, of your own resentment or exhaustion or anger or whatever. So it's like, thank you very much for asking. I will have to check my diary myself. I'll have to think about that. Something that gives a bit of space, but then possibly, and I'm covering a load of things here, from emails, phone requests, face to face, but it's like, get away, and if it's the email, the phone, it's like, I will get back to you. I will let you know tomorrow by 9 or the end of the week or in 5 minutes. But make yourself that space, and then think, okay, do I really want to do this? And then maybe think, I talk about your own bill of personal rights. Like, I have the right to say no without feeling guilt. That's a very important one for people who struggle to say no. I have the right. Do I really want to do this thing? So then possibly if you don't, is there an alternative you can offer? Like, I can't do that report by the end of the week, but I can do it by Monday. Or can you ask Janice to do the, organize the Zoom meeting for the mothers group? I don't know. Probably don't suggest someone else without asking them. Your child, maybe you can't have that now, but you can have it in an hour, or we'll reassess in an hour, something like that. Or, again, I'm mixing up loads of different types of requests, but you might say, that's not for me at the moment, thank you. Again, people will say, like, oh, but if it's work, you're going to lose your job. So, again, you have to use your common sense at each different request. But it's something about thank them for asking, a version of that, the graciousness. Make a pause. That is so important, isn't it? Give yourself time. Even if it's, I said, like, ambushed by your boss in the corridor. Well, that wouldn't happen now in COVID. I said, like, bend down, drop your pencil and bend down to the floor. And while you're picking your pen up or pencil, take a deep breath in for 3, out for 5. That can be your pause. That's like a micro pause. And that might give you another idea that you stand up, look them in the eye and say, can I get back to you on that one in 5 minutes? I've got to check my diary. So somehow, and in fact, Rebecca, I don't know, I don't tell this story. This story sounds a bit boastful, but somewhere on YouTube, there is a video of me being interviewed about this book on Polish television. This book was the bestseller in Poland. I don't know why, it's phenomenal. But anyway, and I had on an earpiece with simultaneous translation, which I'd never used in my life. So the presenters start asking me the first question in Polish. And I wasn't really concentrating on my earpiece, the translation, because I was holding eye contact with them. And then I realized I hadn't understood a word they'd said. I didn't know what the question was. So in this live video of me on Polish, you can see me, I just think, F expletive. In my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, panic. I am frozen with terror, but it happens so quickly. And then I think, take a breath. So I go, and to the sharp eye, now I've told you, you can see me on that YouTube video, taking a breath and pausing. And then I go, and I'm thinking, they probably said, why did you write this book? Because everyone says, right, that's always the first question. So I went, well, the reason I wrote this book. And after that, I realized I learned. It's like when you're listening to the simultaneous translation, I looked down because the camera wasn't on me. And then I could hear the translation into English and I could answer all the questions. But you can see me take my pause.
Brilliant, yeah. So powerful.
That's crazy.
That's great that your own instinct kicked in, your own kind of strategy in that real quite a highly stressed moment, but your instinct kicked in that you went to take a breath.
I know, extraordinary, because you said a very good thing there. Mostly, depending on how Curse of Lovely we are, where it comes from, often it comes from childhood, where we were scared of an adult who was angry with us, a parent, a teacher, a sibling. So if someone we see their face is angry, or it's like, oh, where's my report, or do this, or mummy, where's my, we can freeze and go into a fear response. Our amygdala, that part of our brain, the old bit of the brain, goes fight, flight, or freeze. And often it's a freeze. And then we absolutely don't know what to do. And probably our stock response is to pacify and modify and go, okay, yes, I'll do it. And then live to regret that moments or hours or days or weeks later.
Okay, yeah. So really, it does kind of come to upbringing, childhood. There's so many sort of these different experiences that we've had are kind of shaping us on how we respond in the present.
Yes. But they're all learnt behaviours. So because they're learnt, this is the hopeful thing, they're all relearnable. You can learn new skills and strategies. And as you say, you are, honestly, Rebecca, you are a great role model because you learn new techniques and new strategies, and they have worked well for you. In COVID, they've been put under pressure, but you can re-access them.
Yeah, no, I think that is the thank you. But yeah, I think that is the answer, is just to remember that you do have these strategies, you do have these resources, and it's just tapping into them and taking a breath. I think that's so powerful.
Yeah,
and something actually that you said to me recently, just about a little bit sort of being in the moment, because I think we've had so much time on our hands, or in different ways, or we've had a lot of time, I felt like, to go inward, you know, because we haven't got all the distractions, we haven't got all the activities. So there's a lot of, I found a lot of sort of reflection on the past, worrying about the future, and you can bring all of this can kind of mix up a bit into one, and it affects how you are in the now. And I think something that you've said to me recently is one of your strategies at the moment is you're just living, I hope you don't mind me saying,
Oh,
you're kind of
no.
living day to day, and you're very much in the moment. And
Or I am really, really trying to do that because I think it's a great coping strategy for now. I was talking to someone today and they said they feel the world is split between people who are kind of frantically planning for, oh, I'm going to get out there and party and go to concerts when we're allowed out. And those actually, which is, they think is a lot of people who are scared of, how will I cope? How will I interact with people? I'm scared of crowds. I don't want to leave the house. Kind of real anxieties about the future. And so, you know, it's not straightforward that we're all, part of us, of course, is desperate to get out and sort of get back to normal, whatever that is. But I think there are many, many, many people who hold lots of anxieties. So what they say, what the, you know, the neuroscientists say, is that anxiety is almost always about thinking of a future event that hasn't happened yet.
okay.
It's speculation, but then it triggers that. So we have a thought, we maybe have an image like, oh my God, I'm going to be having a panic attack in Selfridges in 4 months' time, or at that event or something. And then the amygdala, that old bit of the brain, the reptilian bit, it doesn't know the difference between past, present, or future. So it's triggered into a fight, flight, or freeze panic response of like, I've got to save my life. And so then we might be flooded with adrenaline. We might feel very anxious again in lockdown until you're going to get out for your exercise. How do you get that out of your body? You know, that's a difficult thing, you know. And there's something about, again, I don't know, you know, a technique to share. This isn't in my book because I learned it since. A woman I did some body work with, she does this, I think it's a 1 minute thing. It comes from, I don't know where it comes from, Tai Chi or something. It's energetic that you go, I can't remember the movements, but it's like a minute of going chop, 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 push, 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 over the head, hands down. You do these sort of quite frantic movements all around your body, ending up wiggling. Okay, so it's like, imagine some cooking moves, you know, or like you're doing kung fu. Chop, 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 push,
Right.
push, push, push. Or maybe I'm making them up. Then you could go clap, 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 over the head, push, 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 down to the ground, push,
Okay.
push, push, push. And then she says, wiggle your spine up and down, up
Okay.
spine. Obviously, this is standing, and then wiggle your hips like Elvis, and that's it. Do that in a minute, and it shifts some of that energy, that sort of frozen, adrenalized fear of the future. Or even the other one is regrets of the past. So if we're being really sort of simplistic, when we're kind of mulling on our past mistakes, or why did I do that? Even, oh, I shot a child earlier today. Oh, he'll be damaged. Oh, that tends to lower our mood, and we go into, you know, sadness and regret, really. So again, a movement, a little sequence of that, shake that energy up, that, you know, in that little sequence, that will shift that. Better
Wow.
still,
Okay.
get out for a walk, you know, get out of the fresh air and take some deep breaths and look around at the nature of the trees. Would it change what's going on in your mind?
And what I love about that, it's like you were saying, a minute. So literally, you know, you can shift and change your state within a minute by doing that exercise. I think that's yeah, because I think all the time when we think of self-care and making time for ourselves, it always feels like we've got to put aside hours and hours, but just having these
Yes,
little strategies.
absolutely. And as I was saying about the one with the breath, of the Polish TV one, actually, because in those moments of fear, anxiety, dread, or whatever, we hold our breath. And then it, you know, and then we're not getting oxygen. So even that one, you know, this, you had, you know, you do a lot of breath work, and you had that wonderful woman on last week who was doing the laughter yoga, and which you do, she started with the breathing. And, you know, it has amazing power of chemical transformation on the brain, of just getting more oxygen into your brain, just unlocking that sort of what I call the car alarm of the amygdala, that bit in the old brain, like when you lent on an expensive car by mistake, just going that power of the breath in for 3, out for 5 can unlock the car alarm amazingly, but it really can.
Amazing. Yeah. Wow. I think we've covered more than we expected tonight with you. So, you know, just I think just those strategies, and I think you're absolutely right. I think it's sort of managing at the moment the anxiety around the future, and that sort of beating yourself up about the past. You know, we've had a lot of time, you know, to kind of reflect on that. And I think if you can help use these little techniques to shift that, I think that's really, really powerful. So right, so we've talked about the gracious no, like how we sort of set boundaries, and just I think that even talking about saying no to family, I think that's actually quite tricky. You know, I think I find it easier to say, you know, no, sort of in an office and work environment to, you know, my husband and son, you know, so I think that can be sort of tricky. And yeah, so how to say no and just managing the shoulds and the could. I really like that idea of switching should to could and putting boundaries in place. Is there any other kind of tips that you would share on how to say no, or do you think that's covered?
Yeah, what you said there is really interesting. Let's just say a bit more about that you find it very hard to say no to family. I would say what I say in the book is that, because some people say like, oh, that's not me. I can say no to anyone. I'm very assertive or whatever. And in my work, I have yet to meet a person who hasn't got one relationship in their life where they do struggle to be. I don't like the word assertive because it seems to me it's a bit old fashioned and people always think it means angry. So I kind of replace it like calm, clear, confident communication. It's like to be able to say what you mean, just in a straightforward manner without anger in your voice, and clearly so that they understand it. But anyway, so you know, I've worked with so many clients over the years, and you would have business people who would, like, I don't know, managing hundreds of people and very no problem with that. But then they would go home, and again, a word I don't really like, but there'll be maybe their own word, an absolute doormat to their child because they felt guilty that they weren't there enough, or maybe to their partner because again they didn't feel kind of confident in that relationship, or with a parent, or it's where we feel least secure in a relationship, where we
Okay,
those
interesting. Okay. I'll
yeah.
reflect on that one. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. So yeah, so in a way, like, you know, you could be really confident in one aspect of your life, but then in others, you know, you
Struggle
kind of
more,
behave a
feel
little bit
more
different.
yeah, more vulnerable, more fragile, where you don't know if that, you know, do they really love me, you know, my child, do they, or my partner, or my parent, or am I good enough, to this person? And again, it will probably come from background, but I think everyone has at least one relationship that they will struggle with. So if it is family, I think all of these, something about, you know, I've had clients of yours who feel like, and especially now, people who feel a bit trapped into a daily phone call to a parent or parents that they don't really want to do. It's become a bit of a burden. So I might say, let's brainstorm to think of something that's, because maybe the parent is a bit sick of it too. In some way, it's become a bit of a should. Who knows what they're thinking about it? And to maybe, is there a brainstorm? You could say, mum or dad, you know, is there something more fun we could do every few days, like do the crossword together, or have a video call, or talk to you while I'm cooking? I don't know. It's like being creative and thinking of something that might be better, of better value to both of you. But we get trapped in the, oh, I can't even suggest a change because they rely on this call. It's their lifeline. They're so lonely. They're so isolated. But again, you don't really know that. You can say to them, is there something you will prefer? Could we try something a bit different this week? Or even that some people have sort of done the call while they're doing their walk, so it's got a time limit to it. Or I don't know. Again, be creative. Everyone's different, but it's sort of Once you feel trapped, it stops you being able to find creative solutions.
Mm. Okay, no, I can completely relate to that. I think it's just yeah, it's been I know something we've talked about creative problem solving. So it's yeah, that's right. I think when you are trapped, you just feel like everything's fixed
Yeah.
and I think with this new situation, there's a feeling of I've got to have all these Zoom calls, I've got to be doing this and oh I can't possibly change it. But actually we've filled our lives with different types of
Yeah.
activity and different types of commitments, even though we're
Yeah.
not going out. It's incredible, really.
That is
Um,
so true. That's so true. That I can feel that sometimes. But it's interesting. I'm on a couple of group Zooms, and it's interesting when some of the members just go, "Yeah, not joining tonight. No, not tonight," or "I'm sick of Zoom, not doing it." And I just kind of accept that. But I still probably would never dare. Being really honest here, I never dare write that. I always feel like, oh, got to be on the Zoom, got to be on the book club, the phone club. It's like when people like, and or they say like, I'm busy, and it's like, well, how can you be busy? We're all in lockdown, but they've said it matter of factly, straightforwardly, and I've I accept it. So that's interesting.
yeah.
Again, we've always got choices, especially if we care a little bit less what we imagine others are thinking of us.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes
It's
down to.
a crucial thing, yeah. Can we live
Mm,
with that if there might be a moment that someone thinks, ooh? But again, we are projecting that. We're mind reading. We don't know. It's like
yeah, and that's
whose needs are most important. And sometimes if you're used to always putting others' needs before yourself, it's like, oh, I'm going to experiment with being 1% different. Do you remember me saying that? I say that so much.
yeah,
Because I think
yes, yeah.
that's not like you must change completely and say no to everyone and help
Mm,
man up. I don't say these things are so difficult. They're breaking habits of a lifetime. So I say, like, experiment with a 1% change that feels doable, that it will still maybe feel a bit of a stretch. But once you've tried that and it's been fine, you've survived, no one died, no one sent you an email going, how dare you not come to the Zoom book club? You feel empowered to try a few more.
I love that, Jackie. I know that's something that I found really powerful working with you. It's just that 1% because I think to suddenly make changes does feel a massive stretch, especially when you're trying things out in sort of personal relationships. So the 1% just feels just that you're just doing something small, and then once you feel comfortable, then it gives you the confidence to keep going. So I
Yeah.
think that's a really, I mean, I think you've given us so many great techniques tonight. I think, and I'm so grateful for the reminders as well. They are really helpful at the moment, and it's in this new situation that we're in. It's just how we bring that in and just honour ourselves, honour that
Yeah.
we
That's
need
a
to.
lovely thing to say, Rebecca. That's so key, like honoring, valuing ourselves, that I have the right to put my own needs first some of the time.
Mm,
And if that's a real stretch for you, then again, that idea of on the aeroplane, which God knows when we'll be on an aeroplane again, but that whole thing about
mm,
put your own oxygen mask on first before you
mm,
your child's. So it's like that's a metaphor for mothers, parents, don't just say mothers, that you need to resource yourself, feed yourself, fulfill some of your own needs. And it doesn't make you a bad, selfish mother or person. It's about, like you say, honoring yourself, looking after yourself, taking care of
mm.
yourself. At some level, kind of survival, you know? Maybe
Yeah.
it's really hard for you to do. Think of survival. Or even it would
Mm.
be a better friend, daughter, mother. Sorry, I'm being very feminized here, but I imagine a lot of our listeners are our viewers are women, but sorry, yeah. Either gender, it's the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's just, the more you can do for yourself, the better you can be for others. And I think that's what it comes back to. And I think you can feel it as well. You can feel when someone has honored their own needs and they are doing things for themselves because they're just able to give that little bit more.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it's,
And then that's a good role model, isn't it? For us,
mm,
I think. That's
absolutely.
inspiring. Yeah.
I could talk to you all evening, but I'm just aware of time.
I just have a
It's
warning
very therapeutic talking to you.
that I'm low battery, so I don't want my battery to cut out.
Okay. Well, that's probably good timing then. So thank you so much for coming on and telling us about your kind of experiences and sharing some really valuable tips. And I do highly recommend this book. I said it helped me a few years ago, and it has definitely helped. And to be reminded of even our conversation tonight, just to, techniques to use, and just, I think it's all the kind of experiences that you've had personally, because it does talk about your own experiences in there, and also obviously people that you've worked with and how you've supported them. So yes, the 1%. Remember the 1%. So trying something a little bit different. It doesn't have to be a big stretch, and putting boundaries in place. So plenty of wonderful nuggets. Thank you so much
And
for
should to could. Remember the should to could. I think
should
that
to could.
those
I know. Yes, yes. I'm going to write all this down afterwards.
well, it will still be here on the recording, won't it?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yep. So yeah, so I highly recommend the book. So we can buy the book from Amazon,
Yeah.
you were saying,
Yeah.
and yeah, so
Or down
definitely,
Amazon. Yeah.
on download as well.
As well. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I always buy the physical copy, but not
Me too. Scribble in the margin. Yeah.
Yeah, you appeal to both readers. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much again, and yeah, well, hopefully we might get you a lot on in the future. We'll think of another topic.
Yeah, really, really lovely, Rebecca. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your stuff, because that brings it all to life, doesn't it, when we talk about our real experiences?
Absolutely. I'm going to be putting everything into practice that we talked about after half term.
Yeah, get out of the room now. Mummy, it's 7 o'clock.
Okay, brilliant. We'll have a lovely rest of the evening, and a good week. And thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, and thanks to everyone for listening, and hope you enjoyed listening to Jacqui. And yeah, have a good week, and I'll be in touch soon. Thanks, everyone.